Now, the West continues to remain wary as Russia and Belarus have announced an extension of the drills on Sunday. The United States says the troops amassing is not a bluff and warns Russia can invade in short order. The U.S. warns the United Nations that Russia has a kill list ready in case of invasion. In a letter, the United States said intel suggests that Moscow has lists of Ukrainians to be killed or sent to camps after invasion. Washington's letter states that America is deeply concerned and warns of potential human rights catastrophe, adding that the United States has credible information that the Kremlin is creating lists of identified Ukrainians. America also warns that it expects Russia to use lethal methods to dispel peaceful protests. Now, the U.S. company Maxar released satellite images of new field deployment of artillery and troops in Russia near Ukraine border. The images show Russian troops in forests, farms, and industrial areas. The buildup is as close as 15 kilometers from the Ukrainian border. Maxar, in a release, says that the new troop activity is a departure from previous deployment patterns. The West has been warning of an imminent invasion by Moscow, estimating more than 150,000 Russian troops have reached the Ukrainian border. The United States' Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that Russia building troops along the Ukrainian border is not a bluff, adding that Putin could invade in a short time and that the situation is potentially very dangerous.
I don't believe it's a bluff. I think it's. I think he's assembled the right kinds of things that you would need to conduct a successful invasion. This could create a tragedy, quite frankly, in terms of refugee flow and displaced people. So this is potentially very, very dangerous.
This after American media reported that U.S. received intel on Moscow's military orders. According to reports, the intel report cited an anonymous source and says that a Russian army has been ordered to attack Ukraine. Reports also suggest that Joe Biden announced that he was convinced of Putin's invasion plan based on this intel report. Kremlin, in the meantime, has slammed the West over allegations of impending invasion. A spokesperson from Russia says the daily Western predictions are provocative and invasive, warning that this may have adverse consequences in the ongoing conflict. For months, Russia has amassed over 100,000 troops around Ukraine, some 30,000 of which are currently in Belarus as part of a joint security drill. Now, these exercises were expected to conclude on the 20th of February, but Belarus's defense minister has announced that the two countries are extending their military drills on the pretext of increased shelling in Donbass. For the last few weeks, the West has accused Moscow of seeking a pretext to send in troops to Ukraine, whereas Russia has repeatedly denied its plans to invade its neighbor. Now, former Ukrainian ambassador to Austria, Alexander Sherba, is joining us live from Kiev for more on the story. Thank you for being with us. Now, Ukraine conflict has two sides to it. One is diplomacy and two, conflict and the military buildup. Where do you see this crisis heading?
Good morning. Hello. This crisis is heading towards military invasion as it looks right now. At least this is what we hear from the United States, and they have the intel. But there are two major factors that can stop and are stopping so far Putin. First, the understanding that Ukraine will fight back. Ukraine is not weak. Ukraine won't put up with the idea of being an occupied country, being a Russia-run Bandustan. We are a free democratic nation and we are ready to be strong. And second is the sanctions. They understand in Moscow that once they occupy, once they invade, they will spend their weekends not on their English castles and Italian villas, but on their Moscow dachas, and probably they don't want that.
Right. Now, in the latest, the US has warned that Russia may carry out possible targeted killings of Ukrainians. How do you see these latest warnings, especially when the Kremlin has called them provocations?
Well, unfortunately, Russia is run by people who used to be KGB operatives, and these people are capable of anything. We know that. It sounds scary, it sounds bad, but our experience with Russia was not with Russia, with Putin's regime, more like it, tell us that we should be prepared for the worst.
Now, France sees diplomatic hope to resolve the crisis and, in fact, has called for a Biden-Putin summit. How do you see the French president's role in this entire conflict and his bid to emerge as at the forefront to diffuse it?
We are thankful to anybody, to everyone who tries to contribute to peaceful solution of this situation, no matter how humiliating it is for Macron to call Putin all over again and beg for any kind of chance he would be ready to give to peace. I ask myself, of course, even if the Putin-Biden summit takes place, what would be new? What would be the new factor that would open a window of opportunity? I don't see much of it right now. I don't see the change of attitude on Russia's part. But again, nothing should be left untried, of course.
Now, eastern Ukraine remains the flashpoint with heavy shelling reported on a daily basis. How can the situation in Donbass region affect the geopolitical situation in the region?
Well, geopolitical situation, you mean in the Eastern Europe or all over Ukraine?
In the region
actually,
with Donbass, with the shelling and Donbass being a flashpoint.
Well, you should understand the gravity of what's happening there. Russia is trying to attack Ukraine and blame it on Ukraine's plans to attack Russia. And our justification for that should be Americans told us to attack Russia, which is absolute absurd notion. But they are doing this, they are trying to blame the whole situation, and they are really shelling peaceful cities in eastern Ukraine to blame this whole situation on Ukraine. Basically, they are borrowing this from what Stalin and Hitler did in 1939. It's uncanny, of course, and these parallels are terrible. I hope that the world sees that Ukraine, A, has no rationale whatsoever to attack a country like Russia, and B, America doesn't have that sway over Ukraine. We are an independent nation. Even if someone in the world would have wanted us to attack Russia, it would be an absolutely absurd notion here in Ukraine. We are not attacking anyone. We just want to be left alone and to live our lives like we want, being a free democratic country. That's it.
Absolutely. We will leave it there. Thank you very much for your time being with us on this broadcast, Alexander, bringing us the latest on the Ukraine crisis. Thank you.
WION, now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.